Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are group 1. We're going to talk about language choice in multilingual communities. Before we jump to the first material, let me introduce our member first. Insan Kamil as moderator and the first speaker, Anissa Rahma as the second speaker, and Inten Jumaida Millennial as the third speaker. There are three topics we're going to talk. The first one is choosing variety or code. The second one is diglossia, and the third one is code switching and code mixing. Let's jump to the first topic. There are 4 points we are going to talk. The first one is what is your linguistic repertoire, the domain of language use, modeling variety or code, other social factors affecting code choice. First, I'm going to give you an illustration about the term of variety or code. As a member of society, we met a lot of people, we interact with them using language. We use different kind of languages and different variety of language. In West Sumatra, especially for Minangese, we usually use Indonesian and Minang language. We also use different level of Indonesian such as formal and informal ones. In Minangese, we have something called Bahasa Mendata, Mendaki, Manurun, and Malereng. We usually use Mendaki when we're talking to our parents. We use Manurun when we're talking to someone who is younger than us. We use Mandata when we're talking to our friends, and we use Malereng when we're talking to our father-in-law or mother-in-law. So, depends on illustration given. I can say that code and variety may cover the same of language, dialect, accents, etc. We don't use the same variety to speak with different people. Each community have their distinctive linguistic or verbal repertoire, a range of varieties from which people select according to the context in which they are communicating. Linguistic repertoire is the set of language varieties used in speaking and writing practices of a speech community. So this is another example. In the village, a father used different style of English for speaking with the man selling the food in the food corner, to the bank manager, to his grandchildren or grandfather. How to get it? Linguistic repertoire is built up hearing the different varieties in use in the community one lives in. More formal varieties may involve more conscious learning, but most varieties in a person's linguistic repertoire are acquired with little conscious effort. Linguistic choices generally indicate people's awareness of the influences social factors or the social dimension. It is related to domain of language use. A domain involves typical interactions between typical participants in typical settings. For instance, a typical family interaction, it will be located in the setting of the home. The typical participants will obviously be family members, and typical topics will be family activities. Okay, now take a look to the table by Fishman 1972. We can see from the table that it gives us the description of the use of certain code and variety in a certain domain. We can see the domain is family, and the participant is parents, and the setting is home. The topic is planning a family. You can see the domain is friendship, participant is friend, and setting is beach, and the topic is how to play beach tennis. Domain is a very general concept which draws on three important social factors in code choice: participant, settings, and topic. It is possible to draw a very simple model summarizing the norms of language use for the community. Modeling is important for description and comparison. We can say that modeling variety is needed to see which variety is appropriate in a certain domain. And also we can compare different code choice in different speech community. It gives us the description of linguistic behaviors in community. And this is another alternative modeling variety. There are four scales here: the social distance scales, the formality scale, the referential scale, and affective function scales. For example, is the social distance scale. The choice of variety depends on how intimate someone who are talking. The more intimate, the highest solidarity of code choice. So that is for choosing variety or codes. The next material will be presented by Anissa Turani.
Next one is code switching or code mixing. The use of more than one code's language variety or style by a speaker within an utterance or discourse or between different interlocutors situations. Okay, the use of code switching and code mixing frequently occur in conversation of bilingual speakers and they may arise at the same time, but they are often used in different contexts. The term code switching is used interchangeably with code mixing, with both terms referring to both types of language mixings. Recently, a few researchers have made finer distinction between using code mixings and code switching, that is, to distinguish the use of two or more languages and the discourse level from switches within clauses or words. And the next topic is participants, solidarity, and status. Holmes is stating that there are four main factors which influence code switching occurrences, and one of that is participant. The participants, they are people who involved in the conversation, including speaker and interlocutor. In this factor, we also consider the solidarity and power between the speakers and interlocutor. For example, if we talk to the people who have a close relation with us, we might talk in informal way. And there are 5 reasons why someone do code switching. The first one is to indicate a change in the social situation and take positive account of the presence of a new participant. And second, to signal and actively construct the speaker's ethnic identity and solidarity with addresses. And then, to signal the status, relation between people or the formality of their interaction. And then to distance a speaker from those they are talking to. It's secret. And the last one is to discuss a particular topic or certain referential contents. And then we come to topic. The topic, it is the content of conversation or what is being talked about. Different topic will influence the choosing code. For example, if we talk about serious topic, we might talk with formal code. Then when the topic is joking, we might talk with informal code. We can use code switching to quote a person such as the example, Susan said Haris itu orangnya nyebelin. So someone restatement other person in here. He quotes Susan's word that Haris itu orangnya nyebelin. Because of that, he uses the original language. Then we can use code switching to quote a proverb or well-known saying in another language. Like this example, we have to be aware in every situation like Indonesian sedia payung sebelum hujan. So the word sedia payung sebelum hujan is commonly known as Indonesian proverb. So we do not translate it in English language. Next is switching for affective function. We can switch to express affective rather than a referential meaning. And this illustrated in the situation in an English department class when they are discussing about case study implemented in the research. So this is the example in PowerPoint. In this example, the lecturer uses code switching from English to her native language, Japanese. It shows her emotion clearly when she mixes her native language and English. She speaks like that because she thinks that she has explained the material about case study well. Therefore, some of the students still do not understand about it, so she used that words to show. Next is to amusement or dramatic effect. This is an example of a person who uses code switching to make amusement or dramatic effect. He can speak Japanese, Indonesian, and also English. In this example, explain about the feeling of a person who just has a sudden quiz. He speaks in Indonesian and then uses code switching to Japanese and followed by English. The Japanese word asam tenan is an expression of showing the feeling of anger. It is a sum of English words like damn it. Therefore, the English words whatever will be refers to the feeling of giving up. It means he will accept whatever his result is. The next one is metaphorical code switching. According to Wardrop, metaphorical code switching happens when there is a change of the topic influencing in the using of different codes. The codes are always changing because of the topic. It depends on the perceptions change, formal to informal, official to personal, serious to humorous, and politeness to solidarity. This is an example which describes metaphorical code switching occurrence from English to Bahasa Indonesia to affect a serious dialogue to be a bit humorous. From this dialogue, the switching happens because of the changing topic. The first topic is talking about activities which can do that. Then he switches his language to Bahasa Indonesia by saying terus kita jadi pusing-pusing deh, hahaha, to make a joke. So in conclusion, metaphorical code switching occurs when the speaker switches from one language to another without signaling any changes in situation, and the change of the topic requires a change language use. Metaphorical code switching involves only a change in topical emphasis. Is lexical borrowing. People may also borrow words from another language to express a concept or describe an object for which there is an obvious word available in the language they are using. Borrowing of this kind generally involves single words, mainly nouns, and it is motivated by lexical need. It is very different from switching, where speakers have a joint choice about which words or phrase they will use in which language. This is an example of two people who can speak English and Indonesian. So Tom uses word object because there is no obvious word available in English to describe this word. Linguistic constraints. Linguistic constraints refer to the principles that predict what is permissible and not permissible in code mixing and code switching between languages. It has been suggested, for example, that switches only occur within sentences in the essential switching at points where the grammars of both languages match each other. This is called the equivalence constraints. So you may only switch between an adjective and a noun if both languages use the same order for that adjective and noun, as illustrated in this example. Next one is attitude to code switching. People are often unaware of the fact that they code switch. When their attention is drawn to this behavior, however, many tend to apologize for it, condemn it, and generally indicate disapproval of mixing languages. Some personality traits are linked to attitudes towards code switching. Higher degrees of multilingualism were not automatically linked to more positive attitudes towards code switching. Positive attitudes toward code switching of participants who had grown up, lived, or worked in multilingual and ethnically diverse environments, or who had lived abroad is commonly. Attitudes to minority languages are very important in determining not only its use in a code switching style, but also its very chance of survival. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, I will explain about diglossia. Diglossia is a situation in which two varieties of the same language are used under different conditions within a community, often by the same speakers. The way it works is that one dialect or language is used for a casual, everyday interaction, and a different standard language is used for more official or formal purposes. Three crucial features of diglossia are: the first one, two distinct varieties of the same language are used in the community, with one regarded as a high variety and the other a low variety. Each variety is used for quite distinct function. High and low variety complement each other. No one uses the high variety in everyday conversation. So the varieties of diglossia are high variety and low variety. The high variety are grammatically correct and using formal words. The high variety is often used for official or professional situation. And then low variety, the speaker don't formally learn its grammar or how to write in that language. It's merely learned as a spoken language. So the dialect or language that is used in low variety is for daily communication. The form of language of low variety is flexible and is more likely to change over time because it is not restricted by the rules of the high language. The low variety is often used in conversation with family, friends, colleagues, in folk literature, in giving instruction, and in soap opera on the radio. And then the characteristic of diglossia, the first one, function, high and low variety, different purposes. Native speakers will find it odd if anyone uses high variety in a low variety domain or low in a high domain. And the second one, prestige, is more high variety is more highly valued. And then literary heritage, literature normally in high variety, no written uses of low variety. And then acquisition, low variety learned first and high acquired through schooling. And then standardization, high variety strictly standardized, low rarely standardized. And then stability, diglossias generally stable. And then grammar, high more complex than low. And then lexicon often shared but differentiation in vocabulary. And then phonology, two kinds of system. High and low share some phonological elements, but high has more complicated morphophonemics, or where high has contrast that low lacks but may borrow it. And then the function of diglossia, high variety is used for sermon, speech in parliament, political speech, university lectures, new broadcasts, newspaper, editorial, news story, caption in picture, poetry, novels, prose, court of government office. And then low variety is used for instruction to servant, waiters, workmen, clerks, personal letter, conversation with family, friends, colleagues, radio, caption in political cartoon, conversation in tea stall, and folk literature. And the example of diglossia is the standard classical Arabic language is the high variety in Arab countries, and it is used for writing and formal function, but vernacular or colloquial Arabic is the low variety used for informal speech situation. The classic Latin is high variety, vulgar Latin is low variety. In Arabic, classical Arabic is high variety and colloquial Arabic is low variety. In German, standard German is high variety and Swiss German is low variety. In medieval Europe, Latin was the high variety alongside daughter languages such as Italian, Spanish, and French, which had developed from its more colloquial form. Arabic-speaking countries use classical Arabic as their high variety and regional colloquial varieties as low varieties. And the sounds of Swiss German are quite different from those of Standard German. Standard German uses more case markers on nouns and this inflection on verbs than Swiss German. And then attitudes to high versus low variety. High variety is norm, respect, and prestigious, and low variety is below average, not very respected, and non-prestigious. And then polyglossia. Polyglossia is a situation where two or more distinct codes or varieties are used for clearly distinct purposes. It involves two contrasting varieties, high and low, but in general it refers to communities that regularly use more than two languages. In speech community, there are two high variety and a number of low varieties in a complex relationship. It is a useful term for describing situation where more than two distinct codes are used for clearly distinct purposes. The concept of polyglossia would be explained in the Singapore Chinese-speaking community. There are three languages that are used by Singaporean Chinese, namely Mandarin, Cantonese, and Hokkien. Literally, Singaporean Chinese people will use Mandarin for their job, and Cantonese and Hokkien is used for daily conversation among the family. So it can be considered that in Singapore, the using of Mandarin is used as formal language, while Cantonese and Hokkien is used as informal language. Okay, that's all. Thank you.